Good morning and welcome to Thursday morning. It is April the 29th. We are just about used up the month and on to a new one soon. The meaning of the cross, that is what John Stott is talking to us about this week. And today's devotion is entitled Victory Through the Cross. Victory Through the Cross. Recommended reading is from the book of Revelation, actually. Revelation chapter 12, verses 1 through 12. A quote from verse 11 at the top of our devotion this morning. They overcame him, that is the enemy of our souls and his cohorts. They overcame him by the blood of the Lamb. It is impossible to read the New Testament without being struck by the atmosphere of joyful confidence that pervades it. It stands out in relief against the rather insipid religion that often passes for Christianity today. There was no defeatism in the early Christians. Victory, conquest, triumph, and overcoming. This was the vocabulary of those first followers of Jesus. They attributed this victory to the cross. Yet any contemporary observer who saw Christ die would have listened with astonished incredulity to the claim that the crucified was a conqueror. Look at him there, spread-eagled on his cross, robbed of all freedom, pinned and powerless. It appears to be total defeat. But the Christian claim is that the reality is the opposite of the appearance. What looked like the defeat of goodness by evil was more certainly the defeat of evil by goodness. Overcome there, Jesus was himself overcoming. The victim was the victor, and the cross is still the throne from which he rules the world. In vivid imagery, the Apostle Paul describes how the powers of evil surrounded Jesus and closed in around him on the cross, how he stripped them from himself, disarmed them, and made a public spectacle of them, triumphing over them by the cross. So it says in Colossians 2:15. What precise form this cosmic battle took is not explained. But we do know that Jesus resisted the temptations to avoid the cross, to retaliate, and to resort to worldly power. He remained uncompromised. The theme of victory through the cross, which the ancient Greek fathers and later Latin fathers celebrated, was lost by some medieval theologians, but recovered by Martin Luther at the Reformation. This was the thesis of Gustav Ahlin, a Swedish theologian, in his influential book, Christus Victor. He was right to recover this somewhat neglected motif. Yet we must not make the opposite mistake, emphasizing the theme of triumph at the expense of the themes of atonement and revelation. Interesting thought there at the end. All those things are true, but what often happens is, I think with all truth is, we pick out the part or parts we like the best, the parts that agree with our agenda. We're not too crazy about the being servants of taking up our own crosses and dying to self. We want the victorious Jesus, just like the Jews were looking for when Jesus came the first time. They wanted the conquering Messiah who would kick out Rome and make Israel great again. And so when Jesus presents himself as a suffering servant, a Messiah who would die for his people, they didn't like that part. And I think that's a good warning. Yet we must not make the opposite mistake, emphasizing the theme of triumph at the expense of the themes of atonement and revelation. For truth to be truth, it has to come as a complete package. Once we've picked a piece out of it for our own purposes, we've diluted it, we've robbed it of its full and powerful meaning. What I think is key for us is what he says was key for Jesus. We do know that Jesus resisted the temptations to avoid the cross, to retaliate, and to resort to worldly power, traps I fear the church has gotten itself into these days. What was key for Jesus and what needs to be key for us is he remained uncompromised. Uncompromised. And if we're going to be effective representatives of Jesus, we need to remain uncompromised also in our faith and in the truths of Christ and the cross and the resurrection and the Word of God in total. It's not easy. It takes studying, practicing, reading, being a part of a group that'll help with that and set examples in that way, but it's important that we do that. It's important that we do that so that we can have the knowledge we need, the strength we need, the companionship we need to not compromise. Blessings. Blessings to you today.